What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So the regular season is winding down, and I thought it'd be a fun idea to go down memory lane and regrade some of the biggest trades from the 2024 offseason. I did this video in like early December when we were only like 20 to 25 games, so that was a little bit more rampant speculation. But now that we have a full season of what these guys have done, as well as what the picks potentially have turned into in their first draft year plus one, we're going to regrade it. We are going to dive into it. Let's start it off with the Ryan McDonagh Nashville Tampa Bay trade. To Tampa Bay, they got McDonagh in a 4th round pick, and Nashville got a 2nd round pick and a 7th round pick. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going with an A. He has been perfect in that number 2 defenseman, more so defensive guy. We're going to talk about Sergachev and his different deal, but I think we can agree right now for this season, Ryan McDonagh is definitely more ideal behind Victor Hedman as a number 2 than a Mikhail Sergachev. And yeah, he's been awesome. It's not like that he has a bunch of term remaining on this deal next year as well. He's under contract at a perfectly reasonable $6.75 million. So Julien Brisebois to only move from a 2nd back to a 4th and get a player of his caliber. Amazing move by JBB. For the Nashville Predators, it's not going to be their only bad deal, but this might arguably be the worst. I'm going to go with the D-, in part because they used this 6.75 that they saved to go out and get Brady Shea, who has been god-awful, one of the worst defenseman free agency signings we've seen of recent memory. But yeah, again, they only jumped from a 4th to a 2nd round pick. Ryan McDonagh was very good for them last season as well. It's not like he was absolutely in the toilet in terms of value, and they should have just held on to him. Instead of now, they would have only had one more year of McDonagh at 6.75. Now they're tied to a guy like Brady Shea, or even the Stamkos and Marsh deals might not age fantastic. So yeah, an A for the Lightning, a D for the Nashville Predators. The Jacob Markstrom trade. Jacob Markstrom headed to the New Jersey Devils at a cap hit of only $4.125 million for a 1st round pick in Kevin Ball. For the Devils, I'm going to go with a B. Markstrom has definitely not been as good as he was last year or as good as he was in 2022. Has not been as bad as he was in 2023. But I mean, he's been solid. He has a .903 save percentage and 8 goals saved will have expected. Has he been worth a 1st round pick that's probably going to be like 18th overall? Probably not, but in part of the reason why that's going to be so high is not really out of his control. It's out of his control considering guys like Jack Hughes, Dougie Hamilton, Siegenthaler all got hurt. It's unfortunate just because there probably are going to be a 1st round exit. If you're the Devils, you don't fully regret this because, again, 18th overall, they have enough young guys and they don't need more picks. But yeah, it definitely has not been Markstrom of prior years. Jake Allen's honestly been the better goalie this season, but not a disaster. I'm going to still go with the B. For the Flames, you got to go with an A+. It was very clear. I really liked it in the moment for the Flames. For the McDonagh one, I liked it in the moment for Tampa Bay as well. But yeah, for the Flames, I defended this one hard. I think I gave the Flames the better grade in this situation because Dustin Wolf was clearly ready for the NHL considering what he did at the AHL level, and they got that 1st round pick. I didn't expect it. I was high in the Devils. I didn't expect this to be 18th overall. But yeah, they only retained around $2 million on Jacob Markstrom this season and next. Not like they're contending at some high level. Picked up a very solid 1st round pick. And Kevin Ball, although on an actual playoff team, probably a 3rd pair guy, has been playing 21 minutes a night this season, has been solid defensively. So for Craig Conroy, damn good. Dustin Wolf right now is better than Jacob Markstrom. Shipped him out. We thought after that 2023 season, Markstrom was untradeable. He rebounded his value, and as a result, they got a pretty solid 1st round pick for him. Next up, we are going to be looking at the PLD for Darcy Kuemper deal. This is one of the biggest win-wins of recent memory. I'm going to give both teams an A for this when looking at the Los Angeles Kings. Kuemper struggled a little bit, then got hurt to start the season. Since early December, since he came back from injury, he's 24-8-3 with a .927 save percentage. We are definitely seeing late 2010s, early 2020s Darcy Kuemper after he did slide a little bit on the Washington Capitals. He appears to be all the way back, and now his contract is honestly surplus value at only 5.25 versus last offseason we thought it was one of the worst goalie contracts in the NHL, considering he's 34 years old and had an 890. Damn good. They didn't really need PLD. They had enough forwards, and PLD obviously was a disaster their first season. But PLD's been great in Washington, and they get an A as a result, considering he has 63 points, great defensively, has just really fit in with all of their wingers on that second line. It's a perfect win-win. LA clearly needed a goaltender. Washington needed that second line center, and especially Washington considering another trade. We're going to go over it later regarding goaltenders. They picked up a guy for cheap that cost a lot less. Great deal for both parties. The Linus Ullmark deal to Ottawa. It was Ullmark Kastelik for Kastelik, Korpisalo in the 25th overall selection. Senators, they get an A. Ullmark, while maybe not as good as his final 2 years in Boston, has been a top 8 to 12 goaltender in the NHL this year. Within 9, 12, and 42 games, did have some injuries in January. But yeah, he's helped them get back into the playoffs. I think at this point, they're 99.999. They would need like the Rangers and the Columbus-Blue Jackets to win the rest of their games and them to lose the rest of their games. They're making the playoffs, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, when looking at the Bruins perspective, they're getting a D-. Korpisalo is still an AHL level goaltender with an .891 save percentage. Kastelik is an effective fourth liner. They did re-sign him. Again, he's not nothing, but he's nothing special. And Dean Letourneau, that 25th overall pick, had 3 points in 36 games this year at Boston College. He is a long-term project developmental kind of guy, considering he's 6'7". You didn't expect him to kill it at the college level this year, but if I said a down year, a little bit of a concerning year for Letourneau, would have been like 15 points in 36 games. Would be like, that's not very ideal. 3 points in 36 games. That is crazy. That is nuts, even giving his frame and his long-term development process that the Bruins were planning for. So yeah, an A and a D+. This was bad. It's still crazy that they took on Korpisalo. Even at $3 million, again, Ottawa retained $1 million. He still has 3 years left at this and has been an AHL goalie the last 2 years. So yeah, disastrous by the Boston Bruins, D-. Another bad deal, another very lopsided deal, the Walman deal. Walman in a second-round pick for future considerations between the San Jose Sharks and the Red Wings. The Sharks get an A+. They got the second-round pick, and then they eventually traded Walman for a first-round pick, and when he was on the San Jose Sharks, he had 32 points in 50 games, was swallowing like 23 minutes a night. It was pretty damn good in those minutes. Not like he was getting absolutely caved in. So yeah, they got a first and a second round pick for basically nothing, like considering Walman just came and went and played 32 games. So awesome asset management there. For the Detroit Red Wings, I'm going to go with an F. It's pretty set in stone. Again, they gave up Walman for nothing. They only cleared $3.4 million. That's what's so confusing. At the time of this deal, it made no sense, and I probably gave the Sharks an A and the Wings a D- or something like that, because again, it's not like he wasn't even like a bottom three defenseman contract on their team with guys like Justin Holl, Petrie, and Chirot. So it was just weird in the moment, and it's aged like absolute crap. They went to use that money on a guy like Tarasenko at 4.75. That was their big free agency signing. He's been very underwhelming. You look at Detroit, they're 22nd in the NHL in expected goals against per 60. I know Walman isn't locked down defensively, but from an offense perspective, besides Seider and Edvinsson, they have no other defenseman above 18 points this year. So yeah, they could have used Jake Walman this season, and instead they attached a second-round pick to dump him. Another trade involving a second-round pick. Andrew Mangiapane to the Washington Capitals for a second-round pick. I'm giving the Flames an A on this. When looking at Mangiapane, he was making $5.8 million, had back-to-back 40-ish point seasons, but they were trying to get younger. They were trying to get more picks. They end up shipping him out. I thought that was a net negative contract for next season, because again, $5.8 million. And for the Washington Capitals, I'm going to D+. He has not really been that good. He's been good defensively. He's filled his solid role in the bottom six, but again, at $5.8 million, you expect a lot more offense than 27 points in 76 games, playing just 12 minutes a night. I'm sure that they're going to lock him up on some kind of 3x3, and maybe he will be a lot of surplus value, get back to like 35, 40 points on a much cheaper contract. But definitely this season, you expected a little bit more out of Mangiapane. So kind of their one miss this offseason. A lot of the rest of it's going to be praised. Capitals fans, relax in the comment section. I'm going to be praising the rest of your deals. This one was kind of bad. Another second-round pick deal, this one also including the Washington Capitals, getting back on the positive for them. They gave up Beck Mallenstein for the 43rd overall pick. When looking at this for the Sabres, it's a D-. Mallenstein was already 26 years old, hadn't been productive in Washington. This year, 10 points in 72 games, only playing like 10 minutes a night. Not saying the Buffalo needed like more picks and prospects. They had enough, but you could have got a far better player, you would think, for a second-round pick, considering the track record wasn't there and there wasn't really anything noticeable that stood out. I mean, he's a fast guy, but like you knew Mallenstein just wasn't going to be a high-impact guy. For the Washington Capitals, it's an A+. Mallenstein really didn't have a fit within this forward core heading into next season, at least in the top nine, and they ended up selecting Cole Hudson with this. They ended up selecting Cole Hudson with this 43rd overall pick, who is rivaling his brother in his freshman year, has 47 points in 37 games. So yeah, the Washington Capitals won this deal. Pretty lopsided. Next up, the Mikhail Sergachev trade. I remember this happened at like 9:30 a.m. on Vegas. I was at the draft at the Sphere. I was like, what the hell? The Utah Hockey Club got Sergachev, and the Tampa Bay Lightning got J.J. Mosier, Connor Geekie, a 2025 second-round pick, and a 2024 seventh-round pick. For Utah, I'm going with an A-. Sergachev's pretty easily going to remain the best player in this trade. He's been a legit number one defenseman, 55-ish point pace this season, and especially with the cap going up, his 8.5 looks like a pretty solid deal, considering he's still only 26 years old. That's going to take him till he's like 31, 32 years old. You got to pay a premium. You got to pay a decent amount to get a number one. And they did give up a solid amount that we're going to talk about the Lightning side, but it's been well worth it. They've taken a step. They're not going to be a playoff team this year, but they have been a pretty solid team. And going forward, Sergachev should be the number one on a playoff team for multiple years to come. I'm very high on Utah's future. And Connor Geekie was a little bit, not expendable, still a very good piece. And I like the Tampa Bay scooped them, but they did select a Ginla and then Bodwin in the first round, and then again they traded the next morning, so he was a little bit more expendable in terms of their young forwards, already having guys like Gunther, Cooley, Michelli, Doan. When looking at this from the Tampa Bay Lightning perspective, I'm still giving it a B+ though. JJ Mosier was great out of the gate, has slowed down a little bit, but still a low-end second pair, high-end third pair kind of guy on Tampa Bay. Good depth. Geekie's not lighting it up at the end, or didn't light it up at the NHL level. Only had 12 points in 49 games, but he had 20. He has 20 points in 23 games at the AHL level in Tampa. When you look at their U25 talent, they were definitely lacking at the time. It's really just like him and Isaac Howard for the most part. So yeah, he was a very good scoop. That 2025 second, they later flipped in the Yanni Gourde and Oliver Bjorkstrand trade. So getting that asset was big to kind of make that a deal eventually happen. And as we talked about before, McDonough was kind of a better fit over Sergachev, and Sergachev wasn't really going to reach his full value, full potential behind Victor Hedman, both lefties, both more so offensively. So yeah, I think Utah got the better player, but I don't hate the Tampa Bay return by any means. An A- for Utah, a B+ for B+ for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Moving on, we got another Utah defenseman deal. Utah traded the 49th overall pick and a 2025 second-round pick to get John Marino in a 2024 fifth-round pick. Marino did get hurt at the start of the season. I'm still going to give Utah a B because when he has played 14 points in 35 games, and what we saw in 2023 from John Marino, 2024 was a little bit of a down year, but it was for like everybody in the New Jersey Devils. He can be a very effective second-pair guy, and as we talked about with some of these other teams, they've had, especially Utah, they have enough picks and prospects. I don't really care that much about second-round picks at this point, so get an impact guy that's still in his mid to late 20s. For the Devils, I'm going to go with a B+ on this. They didn't really need Marino because they had enough young defensemen coming up within the system. Luke Hughes, Simone Nemec, Seamus Casey, Anton Salayev, who they picked the day prior. They got Yegorov with that second-round pick in this year's draft, who was solid over in Russia and in 16 games with Boston University, has a 931, still battling for a Final Four, in the Frozen Four next week. So he's a good goalie prospect. And they later flipped that 2025 second-round pick for Brian Dumoulin at the deadline. Don't love that deal, but they needed it considering how injured their defense core is right now. So yeah, a B for the Utah Hockey Club, a B+ for the New Jersey Devils. Tanner Jeannot somehow got traded for a second and a fourth-round pick on day 2 of the draft. For the LA Kings, I'm giving this a D-, similarly to the Beck-Malestein deal. He's just a fourth liner, 13 points in 67 games, playing 11 minutes a night. And the thing with him is he's making $2.66 million. So he's making like okay third liner money. Had a brutal hit on Brock Besser earlier in the season that he got suspended for. He gave up a second and a fourth round pick for him. That is bad asset management in terms of acquiring talent. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, you got to go with an A. The overall Tanner Jeannot experience is definitely like an F-, considering they traded like a first through fifth round pick at the 2023 deadline. But they did recoup some assets with this. They still had that 2025 second round pick. And again, shedding that $2.66 million was huge in terms of going out and getting a guy like Jake Gensel, and they got assets to do it. It's not like they had to attach a third or fourth round pick to dump Jeannot. The LA Kings gave up solid assets to get a net negative player. Great asset management by Julian Breezeball. If Chris Patrick didn't exist, you would probably be getting the Jim Gregory this season. Moving on to another Chris Patrick assistant GM move when he acquired Logan Thompson from the Vegas Golden Knights for a 2024 third round pick and a 2025 third-round pick. They got their starter in this deal after shipping out Darcy Kemper. And the reason why they're number one in the Eastern Conference right now is mainly because of, not mainly, of course, everybody has something to do with it, but Logan Thompson, his first 3 months, he was the MVP of this team, considering he had a 23-2-3 record with a .927 save percentage. He has slowed down a little bit of late. Actually, he has like an 882 or something like that. Of late, it's been bad, but overall in the season, he's been a top 8 goalie. He was only making $767,000 this season, and you got him for 2 third-round picks. Great asset management. Again, when a guy like Markstrom's still at $4 million, you had to give up a first-round pick and a roster defenseman. Chef's kiss by the Washington Capitals, and going forward, I still think Logan Thompson is closer to the guy that he was in the first 3 months compared to the last 2 months, and they locked him up at a reasonable $5.85 million. Great job by the Washington Capitals. For the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm going to go with the C+. You'd probably kill them more for this, but it did later come out that Logan Thompson did want to trade. They definitely should have got more than 2 third-round picks, but I assume that they did their homework, and maybe they don't want to trade him within division to someone where they would have potentially faced him in the playoffs. They shipped him out east. It's a bad deal in terms of value, but again, this circumstance, it's not like they were like, yeah, we're done with Logan Thompson. He has no future here. There was some beef, and that's also why he wasn't on the Four Nations team, because of his experience with guys like DeBoer and Cassidy. So a C+, all things considered, for the Vegas Golden Knights. Another Washington Capitals move. Jacob Chychrun was acquired by them for Nick Jensen in a 2026 third-round pick. That went to Ottawa for the Capitals. I'm going to go with an A. Jensen has still been solid in Ottawa, but Chychrun is definitely a serious talent upgrade, especially on the offensive side. 20 goals and 27 assists in 72 games. I don't love the 8x9 extension, but again, just such a massive upgrade in terms of talent between the two, and they're like 9 years apart in terms of age, so great asset management by the Washington Capitals. For the Ottawa Senators, I'm going to still go with the B. They were not going to give Chychrun some kind of 8x8, 8x9 eventually that he got in Ottawa. They had too many guys on the left side, and it's not like Steve Staios initially traded for Jacob Chychrun. He was kind of just put in a tough situation. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the B. Jensen has been a very effective right-hand defenseman that they really needed, and still has like 20 points in like 70 games about. So, yeah, he's been a very solid fit. But clearly, they did not get a ton of talent and only got a third-round pick on top of Jensen. And Jensen is 34, 35 years old, so it's not like he's going to be playing with them for a long time. New York Rangers acquired Riley Smith from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 2027 second-round pick and a conditional 2025 fifth-round pick. For the Rangers, I'm going to go with the C-. This was kind of their fix to potentially get Kreider and Zibanejad cooking at 5-on-5. Clearly didn't work. Smith wasn't horrible by any stretch. He had 29 points in 58 games, but definitely was an underwhelming trade. They eventually traded Smith at the deadline for a third-round pick that I thought was good value. It was San Jose's third-round pick, but then they flipped that for Carson Soucy as well. It's been pretty bad, and as another year at $3.25 million. For the Penguins, you got to go with an A-. They did eat $1.25 million, but they got a second-round pick, and again, that second-round pick could be decently high in 2027 with the way that the New York Rangers have looked this season. So, yeah, way to sell. They probably shouldn't have traded for Riley Smith in the first place from the Vegas Golden Knights, but to recoup a second-round pick is damn good work. The Montreal Canadiens got Patrick Laine and a second-round pick in 2026 for Jordan Harris. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, similarly to the Ottawa Senators, obviously got the far worse player, and they did attach a second-round pick on top of that, but Laine wanted out. It was pretty public. I'm going to go with the B- for them. Jordan Harris has been okay, but yeah, they were just put in a really tough spot. Value-wise, they got destroyed, but context is key. For the Montreal Canadiens, I'm going to go with an A-. Laine has 20 goals, 13 assists, 33 points in 47 games. Still not worth $8.7 million this year or probably next year, but he's been awesome, especially on the power play. 15 of his 20 goals are at 5-on-5. He needs to be better at 5-on-5 if he wants to be a key piece going forward, but he also just doesn't really have a legit second-line center at this point, so that's asking a lot of him in terms of offensive play driving and defensively. Yeah, very good scoop by the Montreal Canadiens. They got a second-round pick again from Columbus, who might actually be decent next year. I originally thought, like, oh, this pick might be like 35th overall, but Columbus was very good this season relative to expectations. But yeah, still great asset management by Kent Hughes, and hopefully this summer and next summer he can re-sign Laine on more of like a team-friendly 5x7 or something like that, not $8.7 million that he's not worth. given his 5-on-5 limitations, but still a very good deal. Still gets an A+ from me, or A-. And then lastly, the San Jose Sharks acquiring Askarov, Nolan Burke, and a 2025 third-round pick from the Nashville Predators for Magnus Krona, David Entrim, and a 2025 first-round pick. For the San Jose Sharks, I'm going to go with an A. They got their goalie of the future. Askarov had a 923 in 20 AHL games, as well as an 896 in 16 NHL games. But again, that's on San Jose. That's actually pretty solid numbers for San Jose Sharks goaltender. Predators get a B-. The hindsight makes it look far worse because they probably should have kept Askarov and traded Saros. I still like David Entrim as a prospect, though. I think he has a decent amount of future, has been solid the last 2 years in the SHL, and they did get a first-round pick. Granted, it is Vegas's pick. It's not San Jose's, obviously, but that pick will probably be 25th to 29th, or if they make the conference finals, even later. But not a horrible haul, not the end of the world. Just Nashville. That's like the least of their bad trades this offseason. But yeah, they still should have prioritized the future, but they did get some solid pieces, so I'm going to go with the B-. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about these updated trade grades? I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.